I'm going to speak into the atmosphere. Speak your word into the atmosphere. That's the way things happen. Just speak into the atmosphere. Speak into the atmosphere. Speak your word into the atmosphere. Speak into the atmosphere. If you're a little shy, don't worry about it. Just say it softly. But speak, 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 oh, speak, speak, speak your word, speak your word, speak, 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 declare it, 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 declare your word, declare your word, oh, declare it, declare it, declare it, declare it, say it's mine, 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 what's yours is yours, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, you can take it, it's mine, you can make it, it's mine, say yes, yes, say yes, yes, say yes, yes, say yes, yes, yes to your yes, yes to all your yes, say yes, yes, say yes, yes, speak, 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 speak your love, speak your love, speak, 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 speak your word, speak your word, speak into the atmosphere, into the atmosphere, oh, speak into the atmosphere, speak into the atmosphere, speak your word into the atmosphere, speak into the atmosphere, speak into the atmosphere, speak into the atmosphere, I shall have.
Good morning, Open Heart, and welcome to our live stream for this Sunday, April the 25th, 2021. We're so glad to have you as a part of this celebration for all that you bring to it. This is our Heart Stream live broadcast, celebration, live stream, whatever else you want to call it. But as I say, that what comes from the heart reaches the heart, and today is no exception. During our daily prayer call this morning, I heard our assistant minister, spiritual director, Villa Willis, reading from a book by Ernest Holmes called 365 Days of Science of Mind. And there was a phrase that jumped out at me as she read, and it was God's idea of you. This morning, I'd like for you to remember that God's idea of you is perfection. It's perfect. God sees you as you truly are, as an expression of God, and I want you to know how loved you are, how affirmed you are, how powerful you are, how creative you are, how beautiful you are. That on this day, remember that God's idea of you is from the highest point of view of life. Embrace that, get a hold of that, and know that to be the truth. Thank you again, and welcome to our Heartstream Live celebration. I greet you. I bless you. I see God in you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Open Heart Spiritual Center virtual service. Thank you for joining us today, this wonderful, magnificent, beautiful day. We're so grateful to have you. And if you'll join me in just taking a breath in And releasing this breath, releasing all that has come before this time. Release it and let it go. Be present, be here and now. And just join me here as we just bless this service, bless all that play a part in today's service, all that have a part in today's service. The beautiful music, the affirmative reading, and the message. Yes, the message. And let us just open our hearts up to allow our message to pour right on in, pour right into your heart, and to take forth with you from this day what it is that you're here to know. What are you here to know? And I just greet you, I bless you, and I see the God in you. And let this celebration begin. And so it is.
The promise of renewal. Today, I rejoice in the knowing that the arc of the universe bends towards renewal, revitalization, and restoration. Behold, God makes all things new. Each day, I rise with the awareness that promise, potential, and possibility await me. I live from this truth, and so it is.
They've come to see the fire burning in your heart. They want to witness this love from the start. They hear you when you cry. This love is far and wide. When you smile, the stars align. Flower of the universe, child of mine. When you sleep, softly the angels come, like diamonds, like my love. They want to know it's true. There's someone in the world lovely as you. They hear you when you cry. This love is far and wide. When you smile, the stars align. Flower of the universe, child of mine.
Today's affirmative reading comes from Catherine Ponder's book, Open your mind to prosperity. What I did was paraphrase it a little bit to make it more relevant to me in today's time, but here goes. I clearly see that nothing and no one can stand between me and my own. Everything and everyone in the universe supports my vision. I dissolve in my own mind and in the minds of all others any idea that my own can be withheld from me. That which is for my highest good now comes to me, and in my clear perception of truth, I welcome it. Nothing can oppose my good. No one can oppose my good. I now accomplish great things with ease. I want to say that part again. I now accomplish great things with ease. Refusing to criticize another's prosperity, I turn within, ask direction, and I am prospered. Love envies not. The prospering truth now sets me free. My life is boundless. My life is boundless. My financial income is infinite. I am free. I am rich in mind and manifestation now. I face the future wise, free, and unafraid. And so it is.
As we arrive at this centering moment, let us take a deep breath in and out. And let's allow this beautiful crystal ball that my daughter Lily is letting me use center us. Where God dwells, may we be centered, divine eyes and ears open to hear, and feet to act. Breathe in with me and exhale. Blessings.
Well, we're going to try this again. One of the great things about all of this technology is the ability to pivot. And thank you, Herbert Battle, for sending me a text message just a moment ago to say that you couldn't hear me. But I was saying initially that we had problems. We're having technical problems with our announcement video this morning. So I wanted to pop on. First of all, remember all of those people on our prayer list to say that we continue to hold a space for them. We believe in the power of affirmative prayer, and whatever the situation, circumstance, the need for prayer, we hold that for you now. Not just the people on our prayer list, but for each and every one of you. And also to remind you that this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. is our monthly Wine and Words. We're going to be talking about the subject, do you believe in miracles? And this is an opportunity to share stories of things that appear in your life to be miraculous or things that you know about from other people. This is one of my friends likes to say that she doesn't believe in using the term safe spaces. So I'm not going to say this is a safe space. This is a respected place that you can come and share your ideas, share your experiences, and not be judged and not have people, because sometimes when you tell people these stories, they kind of look at you with askance and kind of wonder where you're coming from. But this is an opportunity to share how the universe moves and works in a way that many people call miraculous. I think we'll find out at the end of the day that it's just how the universe works. We have a small idea of how it works, but we're going to expand the idea on Thursday. Hope to see you there. Hope that you join us. And as always, we appreciate your support, your gifts, your contributions. You're familiar with the ways in which we can do them. You can do it through text to give. You can also go to our website and donate there. And coming very soon, at the request of several people, you'll be able to also donate via Cash App. May you have a magnificent day. This week, like many people, I was bracing myself for the verdict in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Bracing myself because we've been here before, because I know that in the interest of accountability, it doesn't always happen. So I was bracing myself, like so many other people around the world, for what would be the outcome of this trial. And fortunately, accountability happened. There's an argument about whether there was justice, but accountability for his actions did happen. But in the closing arguments of the trial, I heard one of the prosecutors, I believe his name was James Blackwell, make this comment. He said George Floyd died not because his heart was too big or underlying health issues, as the defense tried to allege, but because former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's heart was too small. His heart was too small. And it took me down the road to thinking, when our heart's too small, what do we do? What kinds of things do we do when our heart's too small? Besides murdering people when our heart's too small, we victimize others when our heart's too small. We fail to see the divinity in one another when our heart's too small. We succumb to the narratives of injustice, inhumanity, and white supremacy when our heart's too small. We deny basic human rights and dignities of other people when our heart's too small. And I'll admit that all this week, my emotions were all over the place. And when you're a minister or pastor or preacher or spiritual director, whatever I might call myself, whatever you might call me, whatever it is, no matter what happens during the week, whether it's something that happens out in the world or what happens in my own life personally, one thing is always in my mind: Sunday's coming. Yes, Sunday's coming. What will I say? How will I address the situation? Because after all, Sunday's coming. And I'll admit, for a very long time this week, I was perplexed. I found myself trying to put something together. There were several nights where I got up in the middle of the night pondering what would I say, because after all, Sunday's coming. But then it came to me. This is Open Heart. This is Open Heart Spiritual Center, a name that didn't just come by happenstance or by accident, but a name that came because of a particular way of expressing ourselves and showing up in the world. Open Heart Spiritual Center, the antithesis of a small heart. As a matter of fact, we've not been together in a while to be able to join together as a community and say this, but our purpose statement is this. Our purpose is to create a spiritual community that recognizes that there is one presence and one power in the universe, God. We set our daily intention to actively practice this spiritual truth. We open our heart space to acknowledge one another as expressions of God, for it is in each other that we see God. The antithesis of a small heart, open heart, spiritual center. So as I continue to think about what I was going to say, because after all, Sunday's coming, I turn to an account of the one whom we call the master teacher, or as our friends in Unity call the way shower, Jesus. Jesus, the master teacher. Not because he's the divine exception, but because he's the divine example. And as I thought about his life and the way that he approached things and the fact that he saw people as whole, he saw people as who they truly are. He saw people as individualized expressions of God. He's not bothered by the outside, not concerned about what others said or what others did or what others thought, but saw them as who they truly were. Looked beyond all of the other things and saw them. And I thought about his example and being the divine example. And I'm thinking about that, there was a particular story that you can find in the Gospel of Luke. And it's about a woman who the text says had been crippled with a spirit that for 18 years. And in those 18 years, she'd suffered with this condition. And I'd like for you to take with me a trip very briefly in your mind's eye and to see her, to envision her being bent over. She hadn't stood straight for 18 years. She was broken in spirit as well as in body. For 6,750 days, she woke up bent with pain. Her field of vision was restricted to the ground. She was pushed aside because she was differently able. She was pushed aside because of her condition. And I thought about the fact that many of us may not be physically bent over, but emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, we can find ourselves in pain, find ourselves seeing things differently able in that way. But in this story, there's some remarkable things that happen. First, this woman shows up where she wasn't supposed to be. She wasn't supposed to be in the synagogue where Jesus was teaching. He was there teaching, and she shows up in the synagogue. For in those days, it was believed that a person who had a condition such as hers, it was evidence of divine punishment for sin. Her infirmity was seen as her somehow being disobedient, demented, even demon-possessed. It's called blaming the victim. And of course, she was being blamed, and we saw that in the trial, but she was being blamed even though she was the victim of circumstances, victim of what happened. And according to the dictates of the law, she had been cast to the margins of the community so that her unclean spirits would not taint the righteousness of the rest. So for her to just even go into the synagogue was an act of courage. For her to just show up defied the convention of that day. But she slips in, eyes to the ground, behind the grillwork in the back of the synagogue, the place where people were who were children and women and those who had other conditions, the slaves. They were there because only the men, only the ruling class of that day could actually have a seat up front in the synagogue, and everybody else had to stay back. She had to stay back there. And many of you in the black church tradition know about the amen corner. Well, this was the nobody corner. And she was there in that place with the other people. But what happened here is something that is important. And that is that while Jesus was teaching, he saw her. He was teaching, but he saw her. And Jesus interrupted business as usual because he saw her. And he put aside his lesson and he dealt with a real lesson in that moment, with a real problem because he saw her, because his heart was not too small, but because he had an open heart. He could have pretended and looked the other way, but the text tells us that Jesus called to her. He called to her and she made her way to him, and then he reached out and he touched her and she stood up. And it says that she began praising God. I'd like to imagine that not only did she begin praising God, but she probably also danced because of what had happened to her in that moment. Jesus took action. And what was it that caused him to take action? It was because his heart was anything but too small. He saw an expression of God, a unique and individualized expression of God. Others might have said that she was a nobody, but in his eyes, she was somebody, and she was worthy of being treated with dignity and respect. And that's how he treated her. That's how he saw her. That's how God's idea of us is, that we are to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's how this happened That's why this happened. And of course, there were naysayers. In the midst of all of this happening, the religious leaders objected to Jesus doing this. How dare he? That woman was not even supposed to be in the temple, in the synagogue. How could he even do something like this? What kind of man it is that would do this? But Jesus pointed out their inconsistencies. They claimed to be people of faith, yet they despised her and they called her unworthy because, she was their scapegoat. They could point to her and say, look, I'm not like that. I'm righteous. I'm obedient. I am favored. I'm blessed and highly favored by God. So I'm nothing like that. So her suffering allowed them to feel superior. But we have to be careful about branding people. We have to be careful about the narratives that we say. Next month we'll be talking about narratives, but we have to be careful about the narratives that we use and that we allow ourselves to be caught up into when it comes to life, when it comes to living. Jesus, in fact, broke several rabbinic laws to heal her that day. First, he called to a woman in public, in the synagogue, no less, during his teaching, no less. Then he touched her, no less. And he did it all on the Sabbath. But yet he did it because his heart was wide open, because his heart was not too small, because he understood and recognized the importance of having an open heart. He recognized the importance of seeing each person as who they are, as unique, individualized expressions of God. And that's a model for us, a model that we can take into this world, that we can somehow use in our lives so that we recognize and realize other people for who they truly are as unique, individualized expressions of God, how we can go out into the world and the places where we are and to do the kinds of things that we do. Because it's really interesting to me that after Jesus does all of this, he goes back to teaching the lesson that he has for that particular day. And the lesson was he began talking about the realm of God, and some people hear it as the kingdom of God, but the realm of God, and comparing it first of all to a mustard seed. That just a mustard seed, and how the mustard seed is being very small, but yet it grows into something large. And then he goes on to talk about how just a little bit of leavening can make the whole loaf grow and become big. A little bit of leavening in bread. In other words, he was saying that just how small actions, how can be significant, how those things that we look as being little can make a big difference in the world. And that's why I come to this, that you might think that, well, I'm looking at all of these things that are happening, all of these things that are going around, all of these things that are a part of our daily existence, our daily society, and I'm just one person. But the thing of it is the reminder that we have here is that our actions, as small as they might seem, as insignificant as we might feel them to be, can make a difference. That we can, in the places where we show up, be the ones who stand up for justice and accountability. We can be the ones that when the jokes start, that we can put a halt to that. We can be the one that when the conversations go that way and go about debasing and dehumanize people, to stand for truth and to recognize and realize that our voices, and no matter what we might have to feel like that we aren't able to say, that we can allow our voices to be heard. We can speak, and even though our voices might shake, we continue to do so because we stand with an open heart. We recognize and realize who we are. We see things from another perspective, from a different perspective, knowing that God's idea of who we are is that we are wonderful, powerful, magnificent people. And when we look at this and we see this, it goes back to the theme and the daily affirmation for this month. When we talk about this month, the promise of renewal and the idea that the arc of the universe bends toward renewal, revitalization, and restoration, and I'll add, and yes, even justice. But the idea that each day is new, And it provides us with an opportunity to be in that space and place and to do something that we can do because our hearts are not small, but because our hearts are open, because our hearts are open wide and we embrace one another. We see one another. We love one another. We express that love. We show up as love. We do all that we can do in love. And so it is.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, gotta let it go. Gotta let it all go. Are you listening? You got to let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I am free in the Spirit. Do you want to be free? Then let me hear you say yes. Yes, I'm only here for God. I know.
I thank you for being so real and touching me, letting me see what a beautiful world this world is, and I thank you for all that's revealed. Well, you're changing